I'm Jessica Liley. This is Aussie Wristwatch, and today I thought we'd have a little bit of fun. I know there's a lot of videos that are done about Rolex and their prices, and are they crashing and all that rubbish, and well, I'm not an economist. I don't care much for that. I've done a couple in the past, but I wanted to get a bit more specific today. So as a person who really likes Rolex, loves them, whatever you want to call it, didn't ever consider myself a Rolex fanboy or girl, but now that I own a couple, and I should preface that by saying I was lucky enough to win one, which is my wrist check today. I couldn't do a Rolex video without wearing the Rolex. It's a Rolex Submariner. It's the date. Go and watch the video where I talk about how I won it, and also about how much I love the watch, because I do think it is almost a perfect watch. Ultimately, I wanted to take a look at 6 watches today, and I wanted to see if you could get a Rolex close to or under retail. Because as we know, the grey market is out of control, well, has been at least over the last few years. It started to come off quite significantly in the last 12 months. I think Rolex is going to get to a point where you could probably go into the store, buy one at retail, and on the secondhand market, they're going to be less, like most other watches. So for the most mere mortals of this world, myself included, we are stuck with either playing the game of an AD, which you all know irritates me, but I think the more I sit here 18 months on from that rant video, I feel like that's kind of one of the only ways, which really, really, really irritates me to say. Do you get any secondhand? Now, my research is like me this week in front of my computer, you know, trawling Chrono 24, not checking the veracity of the actual watches that are for sale. So I just want to preface that comment, but on face value, I did find some. So let's start with one of the seminal classic watches of the Rolex collection, and a watch probably not in this iteration, but a watch I would really like to have in my collection one day. And to state a really famous line from a really famous Australian film called The Castle, tell them they're dreaming, love. Because the Daytona, as we all know, is near impossible to get unless you have played the Rolex AD game or bribed someone or are really good friends with someone in Rolex. Because I feel I will have to get a Daytona on the secondhand market one day, because I don't think I'll be able to get one new. I'd love to get one new. This one is the Cosmograph 40mm two-tone white gold steel. It's actually a really pretty watch. I went for the white dial, and so retail, and I'm going to be talking in the Australian dollar, everyone, so don't go, that doesn't cost that much. It does in Aussie money. So for 28,900 Australian, you can have this Daytona. If you can get it new in a I was going to say a dealership, like a car, you can get it new in a boutique for that price if you can find one. I found one, again, I don't know how good it is, on Chrono 24 for $25,916. So there you go. You can get a Daytona for under retail. Can't get a steel Daytona for under retail. And I should say that with certain models, not all, on my little sort of reconnaissance mission and research mission this week, steel watches are pretty unattainable still, like at retail or close to. Like, you still have to pay a pretty significant premium for them. But most watch charts and places I scrolled through in terms of looking at overall prices and movement, Rolex as a whole is down about 8%. But I'm talking about being down from the significant numbers above retail. So they're still, for most people, myself included, not really attainable at those prices. So the next watch I decided to look at was a watch that it's one of my least favorite Rolexes, and I can't really put my finger on it. Because notionally, there's nothing wrong with this watch. I mean, there's nothing wrong with any Rolex, or most watches for that matter. It all comes down to personal preference, right? So for me, personally speaking, it's not my favorite Rolex, but it's the Airking. I think it's because of the green, but I'm unsure. I still haven't been able to put, because I kind of like the fact that I don't mind the numerals on the dial. So That's what I mean. Like I can't articulate entirely why. It's just not the watch for me. But this baby, you cannot get below retail, at least on my research, but you can get one for close to retail. So I've added it in. There's a couple on this list that I decided to add in anyway, even though they're slightly above retail. So the Airking retails for $11,050 here in Australia, remember? The secondhand one I found was going for $13,400. So I thought that was a pretty good price given, but as someone will tell me in the comments, no doubt, and feel free to, I think this is probably an attainable watch at retail. This is like one of your starting collection watches, as that guy would have said to me in that store that day. And I don't want to start with that or end with that in my collection. But someone else, I'm sure, would happily do that. And so you should aim to get that through the AD and not pay retail for that. The third watch. This one is below retail. And it's kind of grown on me. I mean, I've always liked this watch. I've just wondered whether it's a bit too much watch. And you'll understand what I mean when I say. But it's the Deep Sea, and it's the Oyster 44mm Oystersteel Deep Sea with a retail value of $20,950, which I think is an extraordinary amount of money for any watch really. But the ultimate dive watch, right? And that's coming from, I mean, I love dive watches, and we all know I'm a keyboard diver. I'm not ocean diving or anything like that, even though I love the water, but come on. But I know people who, my niece free dives, and my nephew, who I've been helping find a watch, he also dives and he spearfishes. So I know he's actually going to really like that watch. Meet someone who deep sea dives and wears an actual watch to do that. And James Cameron does not count. Love James, love his films, but he does not count. But yeah, so sorry. The second-hand model for this watch is $17,500. And there were a number of these available. So I think hunting it down, making sure the veracity of the watch is all kosher, you're probably going to get one of these below retail if you're that way inclined. I also think this watch is slightly more achievable at the AD level as a beginning of the collection watch. In fact, I think they try and sell this to you in lieu of a Submariner, which I understand why. I mean, it's the beefy uncle of a Submariner for sure. And that, I guess that's what I meant by too much watch. I didn't mean in the sense of like, I mean, I don't need that much waterproof, water resistance, whatever you want to call it, but it's quite thick. Even though I wear a 47mm Panerai, a 44mm steel watch just looks a lot bigger on the wrist. But never say never. But all right, the fourth watch. I sigh because this watch has grown on me significantly, although I'm going to say this. If I was to ever get this watch, I think I would probably get a model like the one I'm about to talk about, or the iteration of, the configuration, I should say. So it's the Oyster 42mm Intense White Yellow Gold Sky Dweller. Now, the first time I saw a Sky Dweller, I was like, yeah, I don't get it. And I was looking at a steel. It was either steel or white gold. I actually just can't remember at the time. But the AD, a nice AD put on my wrist. And it was the deep blue dial. It was quite beautiful actually, but it just felt like it wasn't really me. But when I look at this configuration of it, I'm like, it's dead sexy. It's on the Oyster Flex bracelet, and it retails for $61,000 Australian. So I mean, it's an expensive watch that I probably would never buy. So don't get me wrong on that. Or at least if for that price, I'm probably buying something else. Secondhand, I found one for just under retail at $59,682. I suspect though, again, because it's a precious metal, being the gold, the yellow gold, it's probably more likely to be available through the AD if you wanted to go down that path. I feel personally, and commentary from others on YouTube channels and just talking to watch friends out there, and also the ADs, the precious metal Rolexes are a lot easier to come by than your steel sports watch, which to me is just I mean, it's kind of hilarious, right? But that's just the way it is. I suspect twofold. They're very popular, yes. I'm talking about the metal sports watches that everyone wants, including myself. That would be, namely, the Submariner, the GMT, either in the Batman, Batgirl, or Pepsi. To a lesser extent, a root beer. But that also has, yes, I know, guys, we have precious metal in that. But just bear with me. Or a steel Daytona. Now, the reason I say it's twofold is they're cool, they're practical, they're everyday, they're functional watches. They look fantastic. I mean, that's why I like them. And also for the price point. Which in and of themselves, I think is also what makes them desirable, right? Forget about the obvious grey market secondhand resale value, because I don't buy watches for that reason. I know some people do. But for me, as a straight beginning to be a collector, not quite there yet, enthusiast, I want to have watches that I'll wear every day, that are robust and a pretty good value for money at those price points, understanding that that's still a lot of money for most of us. And so, of course, everyone else feels the same. And they look great. They're just fucking sexy watches, right? So, of course I want one. Everyone's like, oh, of course you want the really popular ones. I'm like, yes, but there's a reason we all want them. Because setting aside the ridiculousness of how you buy them, if you get one retail, they're somewhat affordable and they're a sexy all-day watch. That's what most people want out of a watch. So yeah, but the precious metals, because they cost more, are easier to get because they cost more. So it's hopefully you understand my logic and argument there. It makes sense in my head. Okay, the next watch, which I really dislike. I think it's not for me. This watch, as a friend said to me once, the watch, when I was talking about the Milgauss, he goes, it's just not for you, Jess. I said, yes, that's a much better way of saying I can't stand that watch. Which ironically is, I'll never buy one, but has grown on me. I understand and appreciate it now. But the Yacht-Master 2, so the white Oyster 44mm Oystersteel Yacht-Master 2, retails at $27,700, and you can get one secondhand for $25,500. Now this thing, it's too busy for me. And I used to sail when I was a teenager, but I don't sail anymore. And even then, I couldn't imagine, as my teenage mind of me, using this watch to like count down to the start of a race or something. I'm like, it's too many complications. I remember when it was actually the dealer who the rant is about, that video, he put this on my wrist and I thought it looked atrocious, but he put like a precious metal one on and it just looked ridiculous, and tried to tell me how wonderful it was, and basically sell me something I didn't want. But if it's to your liking, and like I said, there's a watch for everyone, it's not for me. I can understand why people would like this watch, don't get me wrong, but yeah, secondhand is probably the way to go. Having said that, I still think maybe this one, I don't know, because it is metal, but it's not in the, do we call it the Holy Trinity, like the three, the Daytona, the GMT, and the Sub? I mean, they've got to be like the hottest. It's not in the Holy Trinity, as I call it. So maybe you could get it a bit better, but I don't know. Anyway, if you want one secondhand because you want one tomorrow, go hunting on Chrono24 and you'll most likely find one below retail. The last watch I looked at, my wife has this watch and I think it's sublime, to be honest with you. And she loves it. In fact, I will go so far as to speak for her and say it is most likely her favorite watch in her collection. It's the perfect size for her. It wears fabulously. She says it's genuinely very robust. And she's just kind of happy to wear it everywhere. She was very disappointed she didn't wear it to the States when we traveled, because she just, she wouldn't take too many, as makes sense, you wouldn't want to take too many watches with you. So she left this one at home. It's the Slate Oyster 37mm Oystersteel and Platinum Yacht-Master. And it's, as I said, divine. Even I love this watch. It's a bit small for me, but it's dead sexy. Now this one, you cannot get cheaper, but it's marginally more. The retail on this is $17,100, and I found one secondhand for $19,928. So it's not too bad. My wife actually got this for about bang on retail at an auction by the time she paid the the sale amount, the auction amount, and then the premium. In fact, I think it was about bang on the retail price. Now, I don't know. I actually haven't asked any AD whether this one's easier to get. Feels to me maybe, but I don't know why it's, I don't know, like I look at that and go, surely that's a popular watch because it's a sports watch. It's a steel sports watch with a smattering of platinum in it, which makes it look awesome. And that slate dial is cool with the blue accents on the, on the second, sorry. It's just, like I said, it's dead sexy. It's a very elegant, cool watch that you can dress up, dress down, and just generally enjoy. But yeah, I mean, there's 6 watches. I've steered away from, I mean, I looked at the base Explorer. You can get them under retail depending on how old they are. They just didn't look that great to me. So I thought, I'll just leave them off. I think they're probably quite easy to get from an AD if you're willing to wait like a few months or something to start your journey. Like I said, Rolex is still very much aspirational and unattainable for the most part, without waiting or playing the AD game. If you really want one and you're a bit open to which model and having it be secondhand, then I think there's a watch out there and a bargain for you to be found. But you just got to hunt around a little bit. And I know, like, I'm a bit wary of secondhand. I didn't mind the whole auction house process. I thought that was a little bit more, for me anyway, robust, and I didn't really have to worry maybe about the veracity of the product that they were selling. Maybe that's the wrong assumption to make, but I made that. And yeah, for the most part, we got a pretty good deal on that. I mean, that's where I got my Explorer 2, the 2002 model or whatever it is, and I think that watch is fabulous. And it's 20 years old, and it doesn't look 20 years old. I mean, and I guess that's the beauty of watches, right? You look after them, they're made well. They're timeless. I guess that's a bit of a pun, but you catch my drift. Anyway, if you liked this video, if you stuck around this long, give it a like, give it a share, subscribe, please, tell your friends. Until next time, have an awesome week.